We're
We're back.
back.
The team is back together.
We're here live with your October horoscope.
Yay. So Stephanie has been on a mom, not really a mom break, but break from our dynamic duo for 10 months, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can't believe it's been 10 months. I took the end of my maternity leave off as I could barely walk to the bathroom without huffing and puffing, and then recovering and slowly am getting back to being able to manage my workload. And I just miss this so much. This was such a bright spot every month recording these episodes with you and decoding the stars and highlighting important topics that are happening in the world. And I'm just so thrilled to be back.
I know. I'm so excited to do this with you. So, if you're joining us on this month for the first time, Stephanie and I used to do this every month in 2023. And then what's today? What's the big milestone today?
Today is my baby's half birthday.
Yes, when she
So,
almost unalived you.
yes, 6 months ago, she tried to kill me, which is a true story. I'll share it someday. But yeah, traumatic birth. And she's a happy babe, though.
And she was born right before an eclipse.
Hmm.
So this is like the 6 month post spring eclipse. What like themes are coming up for you right now?
I think maybe just still healing and recognizing how far I've come from giving birth and getting back into my own body. And I'm literally still healing. I have feet issues. That's like my grand finale that I'm healing up from giving birth. And fascinating, she was born with Mars and Saturn in Pisces, which rules the feet.
Mhm.
And that is
Mhm.
like the final part of my body that she is still affecting.
Wow, that's
Hmm.
so on brand.
I know. What about you? What's coming up for you with these Libra eclipses coming back?
I was sharing with you how like a year ago in October, before we were going to record our November forecast, I was so nervous because that was the first time I was publicly speaking out about Palestine and how terrified I was.
Mm.
And I even asked Stephanie, I was like, if you want to like not do this forecast with me, because I didn't want you to get backlash being associated with me. I just remember how scared I was. And now, almost a year later, how much that fear just doesn't occupy my mind anymore. So I
It's
feel
not
like it's
even a thought.
no. And I think that's so like amazing. And sometimes you have to like literally just go through your fear. Just do it when you're afraid.
Yeah. And I hope that you know how much change you have affected in this world by using your voice and highlighting things that actually matter and using your words effectively, like by calling it what it is, a genocide, and really just reclaiming your voice and how powerful that's been and how much it's influenced me. Like, I remember when you came to me, I was like, oh my God, Laura, no, like you're an inspiration. I'm working on it. I'm trying to be as brave as you. And maybe that's part of my Libra eclipse too, because that was around the time that I started speaking out against the ongoing genocide as well. And now when I think about posting about it, I'm like, duh, like I don't even have
Mm-hmm.
reservations.
Yeah. Because the shadow side of Libra is people pleasing and
Yes.
like both sidesing, right? A lot of people at that time were like, taking both sides. And I just decided that I wanted to do what was right. And I don't have any regrets, but yeah, it's been a bumpy road,
Mm-hmm.
but super fun. And honestly, like understanding astrology and how it's impacted me this last year has helped me so much. So I'm really excited to get into this month and last month with you.
Yes. So we're going to start with a September recap and
Yes.
kind of go over some of the main events and look at astrological symbols and how they played out as well.
Yeah, I don't know about all of you, but September felt very chaotic. And it was because it was Virgo season, right? Because it's a mutable earth sign. But starting off, I remember very distinctly September 1st when Pluto re-entered the sign of Capricorn for the last time of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
This is when
I love
Israel,
saying that.
I know, right? Oh,
Yeah.
finally, Israel invaded the occupied West Bank. And this is just a huge theme of September because Israel is a Libra rising. So the fourth house in Israel's chart is Capricorn. So I just feel like Israel as a nation is having its death rattle. And that's like a real thing that happens to people who die. They like
Oh, let me tell you.
gasp for their last breath.
For a
And
long time, as someone who's
yes,
done death work, it is not like the movies, let me tell you now. And this feels like that,
yes.
it's like extended. It goes
Mhm.
on, it's drawn out to the point where it like I have had many loved ones die that I've helped usher to the other side. And I'm like, stop breathing. You know what I mean? Like, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
this,
yeah. So
it's
you've seen it in person.
oh, it's painful hearing the death rattle. It can last days and it's grueling for the families.
Mhm.
And I think symbolically that just is such a vivid depiction of what we're seeing here. It's like this grasp, this last grasp for power, and
Mhm.
because we're talking through the archetypes here. That's Pluto.
Mhm. Yeah. And I just, I studied the South African apartheid. So when the white South Africans also knew that their apartheid was ending, they also had a death rattle. They invaded other neighboring African countries. And so it is a sign that they are dying. And so that you can tell when they start invading like Lebanon and Syria and Yemen. And it's interesting that you actually had a lived experience because actually a doctor told me about the death rattle. And I was like, oh my God, that's such Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn and like what we're witnessing right now. So that was on September 1st, but this is like an ongoing story that happened within September. Like there were other tent massacres, there were just other atrocities that just seem to be happening every single day.
Yes, yeah.
That's
There's unfortunately too many to name, and there was the crater. Was it like a 2,000 pound
yes.
bomb that was sent over by the United States and or funded by the United States,
Mhm.
and it left the depth of an Olympic-sized pool
Mhm.
on a refugee camp.
Yes. Yeah, it was, I mean, you go from never seeing a dead body to then seeing one every single day and dismembered in the most horrific ways. I don't have words. And I feel like even just my appearance on social media just seems like meek these days. It's like, what else can you say?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like
It's
we're
well, because
past the ceasefire.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just I don't understand how humans in power are seeing this and not doing everything within their ability to end it.
Mhm.
Like humans are humans are humans are humans. We're all connected.
Yes. They don't see them as humans. That's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So on September 4th, the biggest transit of the year was Mars entering Cancer. And I say that because Mars is going to be in Cancer for like 9 months.
A
It like
long time.
and whenever a planet ingresses into a cardinal sign at 0 degrees, it's a world point. So some big news story comes out. And on that day, there was a Georgia school shooting. The suspect was a 14-year-old boy. He was gifted an AR-15 from his father. Both have been since arrested. But Mars and Cancer, Mars is fallen in Cancer. So usually you'll see a lot of school shootings and violence towards children and vulnerable populations. But I mean, apparently there's a school shooting or a mass shooting in the United States every year. So I hope we're not getting desensitized to these things, but that happened on September 4th. And then a report came out that 15,000 children in Gaza have been murdered so far.
Yeah. How many of it was like the first 8 or 15 pages of the documents were all children under the age of 1. I can't remember how many
Yes.
pages, but it was multiple, many more pages than it shouldn't be any pages, of course, but like
Mm-hmm.
multiple pages
Mm-hmm.
under 1.
Under one. And like Israel has the most advanced technology, their military, and this is like an intentional mass murder, ethnic cleansing of a generation, basically, of young children. And yeah, it was very shocking to read that report. But obviously, if you've been watching for the last 11 months, not shocking.
Mhm.
And then there was like three different news stories about femicides. Again, Mars and Cancer. The Olympic athlete Rebecca Chepa, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Cheptegei was murdered by her boyfriend. Like he literally set her on fire and she later passed away. And you were telling me a story about a woman that got blended in a blender.
Yeah, her husband chopped her up and put her in a blender.
Yeah, like what the heck? These are all horrific murders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like yeah, Mars and Cancer. And then there was a story of this French woman whose husband drugged her for 10 years and like what is it, 50 men like raped her over a decade. And then
Yeah.
but she's alive and she went to court and she's getting justice against her husband and these men.
Yeah. And I think so for anyone who's like, what does Mars and Cancer have to do with this? Mars is a planet of anger and violence and war and destruction. And Cancer is the archetype often associated with women and
Mhm.
femmes. And yeah, so you can see just how there's this violence that's really kicked up.
Mm-hmm. But good news, Portland,
Mhm.
Maine became the fourth US city to adopt Israeli divestment resolutions, divesting from all funds from companies complicit in the genocide and human rights violations. So your BDS and your protests are working. So
Yes.
hopefully we'll have more US cities.
Yeah, join in. And just like a reminder that when we say use your voice, speak up, amplify, share, like this is what can happen. And this is something that we deserve to ask all of our representatives to do.
Yes. On September 6th ish, Israel murdered an American Turkish activist in the West Bank. Her name was Ayan Sur, and she was 26 years old. She was volunteering with the International Solidarity Movement. So basically, these like American and uh, activists from the West, they help with their bodies guard farms in the West Bank against Israeli soldiers. And by the way, this is a human rights violation that she got murdered.
By the way,
everything is.
all of this is a
All of
human
this
rights
is.
violation. Yeah.
Yes. And she was murdered. And what was so disappointing was that like earlier in the month, President Biden and VP Harris made a statement about the hostages, the Israeli hostages. One of them, I think two of them were American citizens, and they had their stories told, their families were invited to speak, and they did not make a statement on this American activist that was murdered.
Hmm.
because she was on the quote unquote wrong side.
Yeah, not surprised there.
Yeah. Yeah. So on September 10th, Mercury in Virgo, and Mercury was in Virgo and the moon was in Sag. And that was the day of the presidential debate. So did you watch it?
I watched a lot of it. Yes, as much as I could bear.
I know.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought it was interesting that Jupiter was in Gemini and it was conjunct Trump's sun because he's a Gemini sun and North Node in Gemini. And it was conjunct Kamala's ascendant. She's a Gemini rising and her North Node, actually.
Mm.
So it's interesting, though, how unhinged he appeared. I mean, he always is, right? But
Yeah.
like, I think just the all the mutable energy in the sky, I just think it amplified his unhingedness.
Totally, totally. It was a wild time. And like you have in our notes, he was like absolutely racist per usual.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just like it was like a comedy show. And it's like this is what our government has turned into. I mean, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a comedy show because it was like mostly terrifying because this is literally what our government has turned into.
Yes. A lot of what he said was racist, but then there was other stuff that he said you were just like, what? Like
Yeah.
aliens having transgender surgeries in prison. You were like,
Yes.
where does he come up with this stuff?
Yeah, I was like, that sounds great. Yeah, absolutely nutty.
Yeah. So Jupiter in Gemini, obviously, like it's Jupiter is not at home there. So, when you have planets in fall or in detriment or they're debilitated, they kind of act in a different way.
Mhm.
So, I just, Jupiter expands everything. So I just think it expanded a lot of his unhingedness and it also, really for better or for worse, it expanded Kamala's like, ability to lead a nation or the perceived ability to run the United States. And I think she won. If there ever is a winner into like choices in a two-party system.
I think a pile of dirty laundry could have beat him in the debate. You know, it was like it's like not but yes, I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Um, so then we have, yeah, so there were some cute things that happened. Like
Mhm.
the one cute thing that I noticed was Mudang, the pygmy hippo, went viral in the middle of September, when Mars and Cancer squared the nodes, and Mudang was born on July 10th. So Mudang is a Cancer. I think it's
Stealing our
cute.
hearts, bringing us some soft spots, some
Literally.
solace throughout the month.
So if you don't know who Mudang is a pygmy hippo that is kind of round and moist and super cute and lives in Thailand and yeah, makes funny faces, kind of acts naughty sometimes, but Mudang's videos have been going viral because I honestly think people need an escape right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that one. That was my favorite story.
I know.
Stood out.
Probably the only
The only
glimmer
bright
of
spot
hope.
because shit's about to get dark because it's eclipse season. And this was our first lunar eclipse in Pisces since September of 2016. So it has been a while. It is activating new karmic and fated storylines. I think, in particular, it's important to know and remember that Pisces is the final zodiac sign and it is a mutable water sign. And yeah, it's all about endings.
Mhm.
And it can certainly bring up big feelings as a double bodied sign, a mutable sign represented by the two fish. Um, it can, I think, reveal other sides of people, right? Hidden secrets.
Mhm.
Um, and so on the lunar eclipse, we Diddy got arrested, right?
Mhm. On no, he got indicted
Indicted.
on the lunar eclipse,
Yeah.
like the day. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
And then the next day they like unsealed the records and like
Mhm.
was when all the information started coming out about the freak offs and things like that.
And like the 1,000 baby oils that he
It
had,
makes me so sick. I
yeah, I
can't.
was like, how Neptunian and 29 degree of Pluto is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I have been, obviously I know Diddy's chart because I've looked at it many times, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So he had his Venus return. He has Venus in Libra, which also is like a good thing to note, that just because a planet it's in its domicile at home doesn't mean it's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can just be that it has all of its resources.
Yep.
So he has Venus at like 22 Libra, I think, and he has Jupiter in Libra at 21 degrees. So he had his Venus return, and again, Jupiter expands everything it touches, so it's expanding that Venus. And he has Mars at 29 degrees of Capricorn, so the Pluto is conjunct his Mars, and it's squaring those Libra placements.
And he's born with a Venus Mars square. And that is like in traditional text, violence. Well, not
Women.
always, but
Yeah.
it can be violence in relationships.
Yes. And the eclipse was opposing his natal Pluto at 26 degrees of Virgo. So, like, yeah, things were going to be revealed about his past.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
was like, yowzas.
Astrology doesn't lie.
It doesn't lie. No.
No. And that was also the day that Israel did a terrorist attack in Lebanon with
Mhm.
the pagers, and
Mhm.
they've continued. There's more today, over 200
Mhm.
people dead. I don't know how many injured. Do you know? It was like over 700 or
Yeah. Yeah. I think the last time I saw it was like 700.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. The eclipse was eclipsing. 2 days before that was also Trump's second assassination attempt. This guy was like hiding in the bush at his golf course, and now there's an investigation into his Secret Service because they're like not doing their job. Doesn't it seem like he's just
Clearly.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it's their one job, and it just seems like he just keeps getting these assassination attempts.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting, again, with Mars squaring the nodes as a part of this eclipse too, like fated things happening, and the North Node being in Aries, and that Mars ruling the North Node.
And Mars is associated with like violence and guns. And there was also the mass shooting by NYPD police
Oh, right.
officers.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Darrell Mickles
Mm-hmm.
um, jumped a turnstile and evaded a $2.90 subway fare. And um, police opened fire, murdered four people, injured others. And I saw some infographic that like totaled up how much damage, this cost essentially, and like compared it to the $2.90. Um, and I can't remember, but it was like obviously tens of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And life is priceless. So there
I
you go.
know. I'm like, how is that de-escalation? Like, how do you go from watching somebody jump the turnstile, which, by the way, if you live in near or have ever taken the subway in New York City, like, people do it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because it's expensive, $2.90, that you go from that to then shooting somebody. Like, shouldn't there be like a moment before that?
Well, we should also name that he was a black man. So why did they shoot? It
Yes,
wasn't a white guy who was evading the fare.
that's true. Rest in peace.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, um, September was violent. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember a month when it wasn't, but it just
Right.
seemed like it was every single day leading up to the eclipse.
Mhm.
And the eclipse, so the last time there was a Pisces eclipse was February 26th of 2017. It was a solar eclipse.
Mhm.
And I quit my corporate job 2 weeks before that. And I left for Asia on February 28th of that year, 2017. And so now this is like, the lunar eclipse in Pisces. And I didn't realize that until somebody that I met in Asia, in Bali, actually, she happened to be in New York, and she messaged me and was like, I'm in town. Like, do you want to get together? And she mentioned, do you remember the last time we first met was the solar eclipse in Pisces? And I was like, what? Yeah, somebody from my past. And I was like, what is happening here?
That's nutty. But it's in your fourth house of the past too.
Yes.
Wow.
So it just showed me that like that chapter of my life was closing out and starting anew, something different. Yeah. What about you? Did you notice anything?
Um, just like boring stuff. So mine is in the financial axis. So just like a lot of stuff with paying down debt and then
Mhm.
savings and then like changing my legal name on bank accounts and updating my paperwork and my information. It was like a lot of like eighth housey kind of stuff like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be your story until 2027.
Woo!
You want
We
to
are
get
we're
into October?
Yeah, because we are still in the midst of eclipse season and we are diving straight into the eclipse on October 2nd. And for those watching along with the YouTube version, we are sharing the chart on our screen. So on October 2nd, we have a new moon, solar eclipse in Libra. And I think the most important thing for us to know, or one of the most important things, is that this is going to bring us back to March 25th of this year and October 14th of last year, because those are the other two times that we experienced Libra eclipses in this eclipse cycle. So think back to what was unfolding for you around those times. Laura and I touched on what we've noticed is, reemerging for us. And yeah, Libra eclipses in general usually highlight faded changes, beginnings, and endings in our relationships, contracts, and agreements. This is a South Node eclipse. So it seems a little counterintuitive, right? New moons represent new beginnings, fresh starts, but a South Node eclipse is all about release and letting go. And I think it's important to name that any new moon, if you're going to start something new, you need to have space for it. So it usually always does involve a process of purging, surrender, letting go. Um, this eclipse, in my professional opinion, is not cute. What do you think?
I think there's like a liberation component to this eclipse
Mm,
because Lilith is there, Black Moon Lilith is there, conjunct this eclipse at 10 degrees,
okay, yeah.
and Venus is in Scorpio. Not Venus's favorite place. It's, in Mars's sign. And there's something about it being a South Node eclipse, being a new moon, a new start, a new beginning with Black Moon Lilith and Venus being in Scorpio. I feel like this is about liberating yourself from relationships that just aren't aligned with you. And like, no, I think I've come to a place personally, and I've talked to a lot of people since last year's solar eclipse, that I think we're all just collectively tired of trying to change another person or trying to get the other person to validate us. It's like, I honor where you are and you honor where I am, but we don't necessarily need to like put any more energy into our relationship. Like just honor where it is, and not all relationships are meant to move forward in, you know, the next phase of our lives. And I think as humans, we hold on to people and things because we're nostalgic and whatever. We have like complex emotions, but there's something about just like breaking free.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Definitely see that with Mars in Cancer is forming an overcoming square to the eclipse.
Mhm.
So there is that energy of severing, letting go, conflict, setting boundaries, protecting, maybe defending what,
Mhm.
who and what you love, or protecting the ability to nurture yourself and
Mhm.
listen to yourself and your needs.
Yes.
Um, Mercury, the planet of communication, is under the rays of the sun. And so
Mhm.
there's something hidden. I think secrets, something could be happening like behind the scenes. It makes me feel like gossipy. I don't know. In your personal lives, you or someone else could be like a victim of gossip. I would be careful about gossiping around this time. It could get back to you. Karma, right? This is a karmic time.
Mhm.
Um, and I do think the ruler of the eclipse, like you said, Venus in Scorpio, is forming a grand trine with the malefics, but at least
Mhm.
it's a trine with Saturn in Pisces and Mars in Cancer. So there is some sort of productive
Mhm.
energy and synergy that is coming through. But again, Venus, this planet of connection and relationships, is merging with the planet of commitment and karma and the planet of severing and letting go. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's all on brand for an eclipse, right?
Yeah. And that Mars is speaking to the moon in Libra, which is like deciding, this is like what we're going to do moving forward. And the Mars is also ruling the North Node in Aries, which is choosing self. And I don't know. I mean, I'm an Aries, so
Hmm.
I'm always like, I need to think about myself first, and that's not selfish.
Yes, I agree. As
I
another
have
a
to,
fellow fire sign.
yeah, I just feel like I have to take care of myself first and think about what it is that I desire in my life and make it very clear about my values, Libra.
Hmm.
And if these people, whoever these people are, it could be romantic, platonic, family, it could be work people, but you are the average of the five people you hang
Yep.
out with. That's Jim Rohn's quote. So there is something about like starting new by letting go.
Yes. And I think you could experience some sort of important realization or mindset shift regarding those relationships because Mercury is being eclipsed in this way. It's like hidden
Mhm.
information is coming to light.
Yes.
Um, I have also been getting into the decans,
Mm-hmm.
and this eclipse is taking place in the second decan of Libra,
Mm-hmm.
which is represented by the Three of Swords
Mm-hmm.
in the tarot. And anyone who's familiar with the tarot, the Three of Swords is depicted with a heart, and there's all of these like intense, thunderous clouds in the background, and there's three sharp swords piercing through the heart. So, cute.
Yeah, it's a Saturn rule deacon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like again a malefic having an influence.
Or dealing with like the karmic reality checks
Mhm.
and the checks and balances of your actions, consequences in your relationships.
Yeah. I remember the solar eclipse last year in Libra, and I understood like, okay, this is going to be some kind of friendship thing. I didn't realize how many friendships I was going to lose.
Because it was in your 11th house, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, 11th house. And I didn't realize because like it was on that day, I think I spoke out about Palestine, and most of the people I grew up with, old friends, just in one fell swoop left my life. So
Yeah.
it really was like a purging of people from my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we may see repeat themes this
I
time
know.
around,
I'm
but for
like,
the better, good riddance.
I know.
We are calling in community and people who want to change the world for the better and who realize that nobody is free until we are all free.
Exactly.
So may
Mhm.
this eclipse release you from any soul ties that are weighing you down.
Mhm. I love that.
All righty. Next up, October 4th. Venus in Scorpio forms a trine with Saturn in Pisces at 14 degrees. This is just a good day to discuss commitments, to come up with a plan, and also to rely on or ask advice from or seek guidance from your elders, your ancestors, people who you respect.
Mhm. Yeah, I find it interesting because like trines are harmonious, right? But sometimes trines are like set it and forget it kind of energy, and sometimes it can like work the opposite way of you hoping it will.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the lunar eclipse in Pisces, there was a grand Earth trine, right?
Mm-hmm.
In with Pluto, Uranus, and the Sun. And yeah, I think with Venus being in Scorpio, you know, it could be feelings of melancholy. I don't know. I'm just getting those vibes because Saturn in Pisces has been kind of a sad, especially since it's retrograde, a sad girl moment.
It's true. So anytime if you were to like Google a trine aspect in astrology, it's going to say like, oh, it's positive, it's
Mhm.
supportive. And that's true when it's positive planets, but it can
Mhm.
also increase and make the melancholy, the malefic energies of a difficult planet flow easier as well. And
Yeah.
then we have a debilitated Venus and we have Saturn in, like you said, sad girl Pisces.
Mhm.
So this could be a moment where, yeah, maybe there's some feelings of
Disappointment. Yeah.
isolation, disappointment, rejection, loneliness. So yeah, definitely I could see that too.
Yeah. But also Venus and Scorpio, just to give like a positive, like, significations of it could be just like your dark feminine energy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm. And on the same day, Mars in Cancer is going to enter the pre-retrograde shadow period. So this is a BFD because Mars is going to stay in Cancer until November 3rd, and then it will go into Leo, and then it's going to go retrograde in Leo on December 6th. It will re enter Cancer on January 5th of next year, and it will end its retrograde on February 23rd. So, whatever happens on the 4th is going to be directly tied to whatever is unfolding on February 23rd because Mars will be at the same point in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to want to start paying attention to themes, topics, clues, especially like frustrations, annoyances that are related to the topics of the Cancer section of your birth chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And ultimately, Mars is the planet of change. So Mars wants to change this area of your life. And I think maybe you've said this in a previous forecast or in your daily horoscopes, but you need to find a channel for Mars to express itself because if you don't, it's just internalized rage and anger.
Yes, especially in Cancer. So finding a healthy outlet a
Mhm.
physical outlet that is sustainable and healthy for you, whatever that might be. Even screaming. I love screaming
Mhm.
in my car at the top of my
Mhm.
lungs on the
Mhm.
freeway.
Yes.
One of my favorite things to do. But yeah, anything to just proactively, even if you're not angry that day or in the moment, just to engage and develop a relationship with your rage because it is
Mhm.
sacred.
Mhm.
And yeah, finding a healthy outlet for it.
Yes.
And then you're going to really need to do that because on the 5th, we have Mercury in Libra forming a square with Mars in Cancer. And when Mercury, the planet of communication, slams into Mars, we get verbal conflicts, disagreements, arguments, making
Mhm.
important decisions. This is the good aspect also for editing if you have to do any like tedious editing work.
Mhm.
But it's happening at 17 degrees. And I'd say expect to get in a fight today.
Yeah, or like a legal battle, or
Mm.
like negotiations not going your way, or maybe going your way.
It makes me think of just fighting with a chosen family member, right? Because
Mhm.
Cancer is your chosen family and Libra is your close relationship. So, and your values. So, like maybe just
Mhm.
getting in like an argument regarding your personal values, the way you see the world,
Mhm.
defending or standing up for what you believe
Mhm.
in.
Oh, just a regular day at the Chung household.
Yes. I love it. Oh my God.
On October 8th, Venus and Scorpio will trine Mars in Cancer at 18 degrees. So yeah, like this month there's going to be a lot of water trines.
Mhm. And
This is
cute.
very like powerful, I think, because Mars Venus is speaking to that Mars.
They're in, oh no, that's not true. I was gonna say mutual reception. They're in one-sided reception
Mhm.
and yeah, great energy for sex, for
Mhm.
experimenting with your pleasure, for trying new things, for working on creative projects, for feeling your feelings.
Mhm. And if you don't like that, I don't know. This might be a tough month for you.
It's time to feel your feelings.
Very watery month.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. A lot of the planets are in water signs.
Mhm.
And
Same
then,
day,
uh-huh.
Mercury in Libra will trine Jupiter in Gemini at 21 degrees.
I think this is interesting because the next day on the 9th, Jupiter is going to go retrograde in Gemini. So it's like almost like you get some sort of lucky news or an exciting development or something worth celebrating, or you have a new idea you want to pursue, or your mind opens up to new possibilities. And then Jupiter's like, slow
Yeah.
down. I'm going retrograde now. So you got to rethink that. It's like
Mhm.
you get this burst of momentum and excitement about something, and then there's reason to pause the next day and kind of reflect before you go forward.
Mhm. How has your experience been in Jupiter and Gemini?
I think just like doing the most and feeling exhausted. Like I
Mhm.
feel like I'm like an octopus and just like doing something with every tentacle and exhausted, you know what I mean? Which is like
Yeah.
very Gemini. And it's in my 11th house of like aspirations. And
Mhm.
I'm like trying to pursue this. I'm trying to pursue that. I'm trying to make time for this. I'm trying to make time for that. And um, yeah, I think that's how it feels for me. What about you?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's my chart ruler and it's in the seventh house. So it's been a lot of focus on other people, which is so annoying for me because I'm like, I
Aries.
want to like focus on myself.
Yes.
And Jupiter rules my fourth house of family. So it's been all about focusing on my family.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not that fun, but filial piety and all that stuff.
And once we get out of Gemini, Jupiter will be exalted in Cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
And I'm excited. Well, I think when Jupiter enters Cancer, I think a lot of people are going to have babies.
It's my Jupiter return. I know. I looked at my solar return chart for that year and my fifth house is packed. And let me just
Wow.
let it be known, I don't want to be pregnant ever again. It was the worst. Sloan, if you ever listen to this, it was the worst. I love you the most, but it really was. Um, but yeah, who knows? TBD.
TBD.
Hmm. But I think you're right. A lot of people will probably get prego. So
Yes.
be
Hmm.
careful. Use protection if that's something you do not desire.
Yes. We're talking about Jupiter in Cancer, which happens next May
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Also, with this energy, you can also be the one giving good news, you
Yeah.
know, like you can be
Yeah.
the person that shares something. Um, because they're two trines in one day.
Yes. And it's a good time to gain attention for your thoughts and your beliefs. So, a great time to speak out, to use it to
Mhm.
bring attention to activism, causes, organizations, people that need um, uplifting.
Yes, and attention.
Hmm. And then October 11th, Pluto goes direct in the sign of Capricorn at 29 degrees.
Hallelujah.
This is our grand finale. Hallelujah. Yes. When did Pluto go retrograde?
August.
Oh yeah.
I think it went August
Uh-huh.
because Pluto re-entered Capricorn on September 1st.
Yes. Yes. So this is going to bring you back to something that was unfolding in August, whenever that happened.
Mhm.
And this is also the grand finale of Pluto's tour through the Capricorn section of your birth chart. So you are wrapping up a major storyline regarding power, control, jealousy, obsession, fears, insecurities, and you're doing some sort of up leveling. And I don't know, I would imagine that there's going to be some sort of like final,
Gift.
yes, like something, one final like
I'm
really
projecting.
intense thing you have to do, right? Like and once you do it or make that sacrifice or surrender or, release control, usually you get a gift when a planet like that leaves the section of your birth chart. There's some
Mhm.
sort of blessing. But
Sorry, I misspoke. Pluto went retrograde on May 2nd at 2 degrees of Aquarius.
oh,
Yeah. And then it entered Capricorn on September 1st. And it'll
okay.
leave Capricorn November 19th.
Okay, so think back to May 2nd. What
Mhm.
was unfolding for you?
Mhm.
I was barely alive.
And this was a 16-year transit,
Yes.
2008. So
2008.
Pluto was transforming Capricorn for 16 years. And I definitely like remember my Pluto journey because Pluto entered Capricorn like January of 2008 and I started working in finance February of 2008. And obviously Pluto, not obviously because some of you don't know, Pluto has been transiting my second house of resources and finance. So I literally transformed how I earn money and like
Mm-hmm.
my values.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pluto has been moving through my sixth house of day-to-day life and responsibilities. And it's definitely been super noticeable when I look back to 2008. In 2008, I was um, working full-time in retail and going to school full-time and supporting myself through college. And uh, you know, working in retail is a lot for anyone who has worked with the public. And now I work for myself and I work from
Mm-hmm.
home. I don't have to show up to a job site anymore. I don't have to do the Monday through Friday. So like the daily setup of my routine has transformed. I also think of the sixth house as like our intense obligations and commitments, responsibilities. Um, and end of 2008 was the first time my sister went on life support.
Wow.
So we will see
Yeah. When was like the turning point for your Pluto journey? Do you remember like the transit or the year?
when the eclipses were happening.
Yes.
When the eclipses were happening in
Yeah.
2018 ish.
Mhm.
Um, I was in a toxic job that was abusive. And the sixth house also has to do with like micromanagers and that kind of stuff. And I was down bad.
Yeah. Because the sixth house is the house of service,
Hmm.
right? Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hit the
I
eclipses.
I remember those eclipses because it was my nodal return. I think my Pluto journey changed during that time too. And in 2017, Pluto was conjunct my South node. So I think that was the turning point.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And I noticed that when those activations happen, Pluto gives you the exact thing you fear. It's like, oh, you're afraid of it, then here it is. And you almost have to like go through the fear to realize that you're still alive and that you didn't die.
Well, it
Literally.
also gives you like when you just do it and you like bite your teeth down and you just do it or whatever, like you get blessings on the
Yes.
other side.
It's
Pluto is also the god of riches.
mhm.
So there's um, much abundance and fertile ground to be had when you do the hard thing.
Mhm. But you're gonna have to go into the underworld, so
You
to
got to go
speak,
in the
like
underworld.
your shadow to really get through the other side.
Yeah. But once you've done it a couple times, it's like it's always a little scary down there. It's always a little scary, but it's like seeing an old friend and you're like, "You
Mhm.
again? I got to do this
Mhm.
again."
Yeah.
But you know.
So Stephanie is saying this because she has Pluto square her sun. And we actually met because of Pluto, because I was going through a Pluto square, which happens when you're middle aged. And
Mhm.
so in some ways, like Pluto brought us together because I remember bonding about that. And
Yes.
like people that were my age, like I couldn't really talk to them about this because it was so psychological.
Hmm.
And I remember like connecting with Stephanie on Instagram, being like, I'm going through a Pluto square. And she's like, oh my gosh, like your feelings are valid, your fears are valid. And then we met in person for the first time, right? Like
Yeah.
2020 or 2021.
It was the first time we met was when I came to New York, March 2022 in
Yeah.
person. But we had done like podcasting. You had invited me on your
Yes.
podcast and we had
Yes.
like talked back and forth in
Mhm.
2021 and done readings for each other and
Yes.
hmm
So what I'm saying is Pluto can be a very difficult transit or activation, but you will find your people too.
yes. It's Pluto's transformative and
Very
healing,
transformative.
ultimately healing, ultimately empowering, but you have to have an ego death and
Mm-hmm.
you have to do like accept your fears and you have to realize that control is fake and an illusion and we're not really in control at all in this wild
Mm-hmm.
universe. So
Yes. So you have like a month left of this really potent time of taking advantage of Pluto at 29 degrees, the final degree. So don't sleep on it.
yeah, yeah, do the work
Do the
and
work.
you will get a delicious gift.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 13th, Mercury enters Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. This is like some FBI shit, some
Mm-hmm.
deep investigating. Conversations are deeper. Your intuition is heightened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Your thoughts could get obsessive though.
Oh, they totally can. Hmm. Yeah. And your opinions are also like more fixed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's hard to like change people's minds.
Yeah.
Um, Big feelings from long ago or old memories might resurface.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a good researching
Yes.
planet. I mean, placement, Mercury in Scorpio.
If you want to
And we're
dive.
entering, yeah, and we are in spooky season.
Mhm.
So you can maybe connect with the other realms. Just
Oh,
saying.
for sure. Yes. This is the delicious transit for that, for connecting with your ancestors and the unseen and um yeah, especially with your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Mercury's
Yes.
all about. And then on the 14th, the Sun in Libra is going to form a square with Mars in Cancer. And this is going to bring us back to October 5th when Mercury met with Mars and whatever was unfolding on that day. I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when the Sun and Mars clash into one another, it's like a big burst of energy. Like
Mm-hmm.
it can be productive. It doesn't necessarily mean we're getting in fights or conflicts. It can, but it can be productive energy. I personally, and this is probably because the sun is my chart ruler, I get in accidents when the sun and
Mm-hmm.
Mars. I'm always, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
accident prone.
I do think it's interesting that the sun is fallen in Libra and Mars is fallen in Cancer, and also Venus is debilitated in Scorpio and Jupiter is debilitated in Gemini. So you have these like
Mm.
four planets not in their home signs, like trying to figure themselves out. And
Mhm.
they have their own talents and gifts, right, in those signs. Because I have a debilitated and fallen Mercury, which I think is fabulous personally, but they just act in a different way. So I don't know. I think also the sun square Mars is like, again, maybe seeing it from a different perspective, or yeah, you might clash, but maybe you need that conflict to, sometimes I think squares are necessary for change,
Oh, they're totally necessary. If
right?
we didn't
Because
have
yeah,
squares, we would all just stay in our comfort zone and everything would
yeah.
stay the same. So there's definitely something there about, and yeah, given the like the dignities of these, it's like almost taking yourself outside of your comfort zone, what's
Mhm.
familiar and quote unquote
Yes.
normal. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like that
Yeah. Like
interpretation.
you have like different resources that you're tapping into, because like yeah, the sun is exalted in Aries, so when it's fallen in Libra, it's like, oh, maybe you're looking at it from a different perspective, maybe from the other person's shoe, maybe you have more empathy and compassion. And yeah, Mars and Cancer, Mars, is exalted in Capricorn, and it has more ability to act out in a very tangible way. But when it's in an emotional body, it's like has to feel.
Yes.
So you're accessing different skill sets.
Yeah.
And maybe that can be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will say though, what I just realized is on the same day, Venus and Scorpio is forming an opposition with Uranus and Taurus. So there's going to be some sense of instability in our relationships,
Mm-hmm.
shock and surprise. But that could be welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, um, you know, something liberating or freeing or exciting. And sometimes this can also just show up as like running into people you wouldn't normally hang out with, or kind of like a flash in the pan energy. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
whatever you do that day, whoever you see, maybe you do have a really great time, but like you don't see them again for like 7 years. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some kind of exciting or not exciting encounter.
Hmm.
Like a surprise, right?
Oh, and you made the point it's conjunct the fixed star Algol.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. Okay,
Yeah.
JK. I don't think it's going to be cute.
No.
No.
Well, I mean, Algol, it depends on like your perspective of the mythology around Medusa and Perseus. Like you can say it's the dark feminine, right? If you if you follow like the Greek tradition of how Perseus beheaded Medusa because she was just trying to like escape from being raped by Apollo, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
no, Neptune,
Mm-hmm.
Poseidon.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Perseus cut off Medusa's head because she would like turn people into stone. Or you can think of it as like she was just like literally just, you know, revenge. The
So
revenge.
maybe there is something about taking your power back and maybe it shocks someone else in a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yes. Ooh,
Mhm.
I like that.
The next day will be helpful because Venus in Scorpio forms a trine with Neptune in Pisces on the 15th. And that is like a sweet and soothing balm for relationships. People are compassionate, they're tender, they're open-hearted and open-minded. And I think a lot of healing can take place that day or acceptance also. So, like,
Mhm.
maybe you are ready to just let go and move on from whatever kind of conflicts have been brewing throughout the month.
Yeah, I learned in evolutionary astrology that Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, meaning like Venus is love and harmony within like our one-on-one relationships, but Neptune is unconditional love at like a collective level. So, I mean, again, these are two water signs, so it's like deep bonds and deep connection.
Yeah, some like if you're having sex that day, you're like staring into someone's eyes, which like
It
personally is not my thing, but
could be a little Delulu
yeah, it could
energy
be.
here. It could be like, ooh, you know, you're under the influence of Venus and Neptune. And then the next morning you're like, ew.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally be like that. Oh my gosh.
Uh,
But it definitely, there's some tenderness to be had on
mhm,
that day.
mhm. So October 17th, we have a full moon in Aries at 24 degrees. And I just want to read your notes because they're so funny. It's going to be square Pluto eek, square Mars double eek, and moon is conjunct Chiron. Ouch.
Ouch. Oh, yeah. Okay. So maybe if we're picking a, this would be my least favorite lunation of the month if I have to pick. However, however, this is taking place in the third decan of Aries, which is ruled by the Four of Wands.
Mhm.
So I think that there's a lot of, let me share my screen so we can see the chart.
Okay.
There's a lot of action in this chart. And the full moon itself is forming a square almost exactly with Mars in Cancer at 22 degrees and Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees. The ruler of this moon is Mars in Cancer approaching an opposition with Pluto in Capricorn. So Mars and Pluto, when they come together, it's destructive, it's
Mhm.
violent, it's explosive, it's painful, it's triggering, it's cathartic. And but I do think that this just allows you to purge. And at the same time, like we said, this is in the third decan of Aries, which is all about the Four of Wands. That is a moment of stability. So
Mhm.
perhaps in purging, in acknowledging the whatever is unhealthy or toxic in some of your close relationships, because with the moon in Aries, we are being called to pay attention to ourselves, to put our needs, our desires first, to stand up for ourselves, be courageous and authentically um, who
Mhm.
we want to be. There can be something liberating and empowering, um, and even bring a sense of stability when you choose to engage with these uncomfortable energies.
Mhm. I agree. I think, of course, sometimes the transits will trigger you, like the moon being conjunct to Chiron, old wounding around like your independence or, you know, something that holds you back from truly becoming the person that you want to be and that you are called to be. and then finally deciding like, fuck this. I'm just gonna like, you know, pop off and do what I need to do, stand up for myself. This is like a stand up for myself energy.
Yes. Yes. And I think just knowing going into it, like I would be proactive with your care. So leading up to it, maybe don't drink or engage in drugs, drink extra water, like
Mm-hmm.
take take a bath if you can, a relaxing bath, like trade massages with your roommates if that's consensual, just something to like regulate your nervous system, ground, spend some time in the sun, like do everything you can to set yourself up for success because people will be on edge, yourself included. And that's unavoidable with these energies unfolding. So, whatever you can do leading into this moment and knowing that it kind of feels like a watershed moment. Like
Mm-hmm.
once
Oh yeah.
something, whatever that trigger is, or whatever that decision that you make, there could be some decision you have to make or action you take because because Mars is so this is a Mars ruled lunation. It can be freeing and bring you the kind of blessings that you deserve, but you have to first make that sacrifice or sacrifice your comfort
Mm-hmm.
and stand up for yourself.
Yeah. It reminds me of that eclipse in Aries we had in April where it was, well, Chiron was part of that story too.
Ugh.
The
Ugh.
the Chiron eclipse.
Yes.
Um and like this being the 6 month marker, like maybe something that you intended at that time, you're completing now.
Mm.
Maybe. I'm also thinking about how you said this is a watershed moment and how um Israel's ascendant is 22 degrees of Libra, and this eclipse is kind of like triggering that with Mars squaring the ascendant. And I mean, maybe this is a ceasefire, like actually getting a ceasefire this time.
That would be nice.
Like,
It if
fingers
well,
crossed.
Well, I will say we know Palestine's moon is at 29 degrees Capricorn. We still have 29 degrees, Pluto still at 29 degrees Capricorn. If it is not a ceasefire, this is going to be a moment that wakes up more of the collective and puts a spotlight on this genocide even more. And let's call in that change is affected
Yes.
under these beams.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm going to cross my fingers because, it's a North Node eclipse.
mhm.
I mean, the
Or
North
it's not an
Node,
eclipse. This
it's
is our
not an
first one.
eclipse,
Yeah.
not an eclipse, but it's the North Node is in Aries still.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you were saying that this full moon is nearly at the same exact point as the solar eclipse in Libra that took place on October 14th of last year, which was on
Mhm.
Israel's
Ascendant.
ascendant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is really, really lighting up their chart with
Hmm.
Mars so prominently in the 10th house,
Hmm.
the planet of war, violence,
Hmm.
and destruction. They're drawing attention for
Hmm.
doing these horrendous crimes against humanity.
It's almost like, so like Mars and Cancer in the 10th house of Israel is like defending your homeland, quote unquote, right? It's like the more they do that, the more they're like ostracizing themselves from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't deny that what they're doing is just like, I mean, obviously we've all known this for the last year, but it's like I think they're in their own destruction. Mars
Yeah.
squared the ascendant.
It's much beyond the talking point that keeps getting regurgitated. Israel has a right to defend itself.
Mm-hmm.
Barf.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And at that eclipse, Mars was square Pluto
Mm-hmm.
because Mars was in Libra
Yep.
and it was squaring Pluto in Capricorn,
And now this is
the opposition.
the full, which is like a full moon moment. So there's definitely a storyline that is being picked up again from that October 14th storyline.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely projecting. I hope that this is the ceasefire that we've all been waiting for, an arms embargo.
Yes. Let's call that in. Let's call that in. We'll stay posy. But this is a big moon, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to require you to be courageous and authentic to yourself.
Yes. Yay.
Yay. Yay. Okay, before we carry on, because there's still so much excitement to cover this month, Laura, please tell us, what are you up to? How can we work with you? How can we support you?
Oh, hello. Thank you for asking. So, I started to come up with an idea to better support the people that I've been reading charts for. So I've read like maybe almost 50 or 60 charts in the last like 2 months. And I know, I feel so honored because I feel like I have a pulse on what everyone's going through with all these transits. And a lot of my clients have asked for some kind of like frequent learning kind of thing. So on October 21st, I'm leading a 6 month like mentorship. So if you're interested in learning, we're going to start from the beginning. Like what are the glyphs? What are the signs? What are the houses? That starts October 21st. And it's kind of the beta program because I've never offered this before. And I want it to be more of a mentorship. So there's going to be like an office hour where you can ask questions. And then I think the real like it might be a 12-week mentorship starting in January. So if you're interested in that and it's at a lower price, because again, it's like the beta program, you can check out more information on my website. And yeah, I first just offered it to past clients and obviously the listeners to this podcast.
Amazing. That is amazing. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. I love teaching and I love like helping people in this way because I do feel like astrology is a liberatory tool. And what I mean by that is to remember who you are before you were conditioned and programmed into like all the things that you are not. And that's really the key to manifestation is like letting go of everything that is not you and just being you. I know this sounds really cheesy and easier said than done, but it is that.
No, there's so much wisdom to be found in this course
Mhm.
with you. You are such a poetic translator of the stars, and it is what drew me to you in the first place. So,
Thank
anyone
you.
who attends is just getting it's such a treat.
Thank you. What about you? What's going on? I know you do like so much on the daily.
Yes, so I have a daily horoscope podcast, Daily Horoscope for Your Zodiac Sign with Stephanie Campos, me. And you can tune in and get your daily horoscope and the astrology overview of the day, the aspects of the day, just to kind of help you plan your life because I'm a Virgo moon and it helps me. And I thought, hey, this might help some other people out there. And then I also have a Patreon where every Sunday I release 7 episodes of your daily horoscope for the week ahead. So you can really plan out your life. And I also include a weekly psychic reading, a monthly spell, and so many other things, a monthly electional chart to help you launch, anything auspicious, or like if it's a new business or to plan a first date or to send an important email. I always pick out like the best day of the month and give you tips on how to use it. And yeah, so that is exciting. And I've also recently reopened my books and I am taking on, they've been
Mm-hmm.
closed since 2023, the beginning of,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm taking on 3 clients at a time. And then when I do those readings and they're done, then I'll reopen my books up for 3 more clients. But I am
That's
off.
big.
Yeah, I'm
I
offering
haven't done
psychic
that in
readings.
so long. Yeah.
Yeah. So psychic readings, and they are pre-recorded. So I have you fill out a form, and then it combines astrology, mediumship, and tarot. And you ask a question, and the stars and your spirits have answers.
I love how like astrology also informs the kind of astrology you do, like you being a Virgo moon, you help people plan.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I just love that.
Yeah. The stars really never lie. But
You never lie.
um yeah, so that's what we've got going on over
That's
here.
exciting. Yeah, so many opportunities to work with us.
Yes, yes. Okay. So let's dive back in. We talked about the chaos that was unfolding on the 17th, that big
Mhm.
energy that's coming from that full
Mhm.
moon in Aries. But we also have some other sweet things taking place. Venus in Scorpio is going to form a sextile with Pluto in Capricorn. And later in the day, Venus will enter Sagittarius. So I
Mhm.
think Venus mingling with Pluto is going to be it's going to bring more depth to your important relationships.
Mhm. I think it's sexy energy.
It is sexy for sure. Yeah.
It's like purr energy.
Mhm. And like really really good at maybe transforming some of your relationships too,
Mhm.
healing.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I love how it's doing that and then entering Sag. It's like a vibe shift. It's like, let's go deep and then have fun and go wild.
Yes, let's go deep and then let's go DJ or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Let's go
Yes.
party.
Yes. And I'd say when Venus is in Sagittarius, you should speak to the Sagittarius archetype because you are a resident Sag rising. But I'd say probably not the best time for commitment.
Mhm. Well, I don't have my Venus in Sag, but I have Sag placements, and it's
Mhm.
definitely like freedom, right? That's like a huge thing for Sagittarius. It's like, I want to just experience life and I don't want to be held back by anything. So I would imagine like when Venus is transiting, I mean, I'm just thinking when Venus transits my first house, yeah, it is like I just want to flirt, I just want to have fun. I don't want to be tied down by
Yeah.
commitment.
Yes. 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 Maybe let them come to you.
Yes.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
your vibe attracts your person, people,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
kind of energy. Yeah.
And
And
you're
also
also
finding love in like foreign people, foreign places, right?
mind reader. I was literally just about to say that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Hmm. Hmm.
Hello.
Yeah. And that your mind wants to be turned on to, right? You
Mm-hmm.
want someone you can learn things from. You want someone you can debate with. You want someone who you can like talk about the meaning of life with.
Yes. It's a fun placement.
It's a fun time. It's a good time to party. It's a good time to
Mhm.
focus on who and what you're grateful for.
Yes.
Try new
Ex-
things, experiment.
Exactly. So maybe from the South Node eclipse and like Venus and Scorpio, you're like releasing old ties, and now in Venus and Sag, you're like, I'm ready to go out there,
Yes.
meet
Yes. You're feeling
people.
renewed.
Yes.
Mhm. And then on the 21st, Mercury in Scorpio forms a trine with Saturn in Pisces. Um, this isn't anything too wild. This is like signing a contract, making an agreement, talking about boundaries in a productive and constructive way.
Mhm. I was just gonna say boundaries,
Mhm.
Saturn and Pisces.
Emotional boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the 22nd, the sun in Libra is going to form a square with Pluto in Capricorn for the last time in our lifetimes. These two areas of our chart are clashing into one another.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
it's
feel like
actually,
that's a big deal.
it feels like a big deal,
Yeah.
you know? Um, we just had Venus square Pluto yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel as big as I thought it was going to be,
Mm-hmm.
but who knows? So that's important. So this will actually bring us back to
Mhm.
September 22nd, themes,
Mhm.
topics that were unfolding that day. The sun is the illuminator, so that's shedding light, revealing more information about whatever stories were kind of taking place a month prior. But it feels like it should be a big deal, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you have a sun square Pluto. It's
Yeah.
like I feel like every time you have like good news, it's paired with some bad news.
Yes, 100%. And I usually get big news around
Mhm.
Sun Square Pluto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you have these placements in your natal chart, when it's like replicated transit wise,
They're
it's like they're
more
big.
potent for you.
Yeah.
And not to be dramatic, but like usually it's always like someone's dying in my life and then I get good news.
Yeah. I mean, but that's Pluto. It's dramatic.
With Pluto. It is dramatic and it makes the small things big and all of them, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, not to make any of you worry, that does not mean anyone is dying in your life. I'm talking about my personal birth chart. But this transit, I would say, is also really important for self-reflection and
Mhm.
for feeling empowered and for taking your power back.
Yeah. It could also be a metaphorical death. It doesn't have to be literal, like an ego death, a part of you that's like you've been carrying on for 16 years. It's like, okay, now it's done. Maybe it's the people pleasing. Maybe it's the indecision. Maybe it's a relationship,
I love that. Yeah.
possibly.
And then later in the day, the sun enters Scorpio and spooky
I
season.
know it's official.
It's official. 'Tis the season of the witch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love when the sun is in Scorpio. I mean, think we're deeper, we're more thoughtful. The dream world and the veil is thinning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything feels like a message or a symbol from beyond.
Yeah. I also love this time of year in the Northeast. This is where I'm based because all the leaves are turning and it's like full on fall. And
Mhm.
fall is like my favorite season. And everything just becomes like, yeah, like the season of the witch, like you said. It becomes just magical. So I love Scorpio season, even though it's my 12th house. Um,
Well,
yeah.
because you see that you have physical, tangible evidence of the transformation that's happening
Mhm.
within you. And
Mhm.
Scorpio is all about personal transformation, alchemizing your shadow side, your fears, your insecurities, the feelings you've been ignoring. Um, it is when the darkness is uh, consistent, the most
Mhm.
consistent, right? It's a fixed sign. And because everything is becoming so dark, uh, there's this way in which Scorpio interfaces with the unknown. And that's what
Mhm.
gives it that like fearless quality. So,
Yes.
and just has this acceptance of, well, shit, I better surrender because I don't know.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. It's very potent energy because it's like Scorpios also always go like to the depths of places that people are too afraid to go.
mhm,
And that's what makes them magnetic, actually,
and powerful.
and
Mhm.
powerful.
Okay, the 24th, we have Mars and Cancer forming a sextile with Uranus and Taurus.
Mhm.
Um, I think this is a great time for activism, for taking a risk,
Mhm.
for trying new approaches, um, and yeah, opening your mind and trying new things, experimentation.
Mhm. I love Mars. Okay, love is a strong word. July 15th, there was a Mars conjunct Uranus, right? Like that was like the big Mars Uranus conjunction. And I've been talking to a lot of clients who had major things happen in their life at that time when these two planets come together. And it's such a liberatory placement. And so that was the conjunction. And now this is the sextile. And
Mm.
it's like, sometimes it can come out of nowhere, you know, this ability to like liberate yourself from something that's been holding you down. Because, you know, again, malefics, do you consider Uranus to be malefic?
Mm, yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it
guess if
can,
it's yeah,
it's unpredictable, but
right.
has Uranus been involved when a lot of people die? Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I guess a lot of the outer planets are considered malefic because of the unpredictability, but you want malefics in like your malefic houses. You want it to be in the sixth house or the eighth house or the 12th house because you want to cut through like karmic stuff.
Right.
So yeah, in the one hand, it can be like it can fuck up your life, but in the other, it can like liberate yourself from like debt or something.
And it's like fuck up your life is like a it depends on how you perceive that, right? Like it
True.
makes you uncomfortable. It forces you to face truths that
Mhm.
you do the work that a lot of us don't want to do. So this is the opening sextile,
Mhm.
and it brings you back to July 15th.
Mhm.
And they're meeting in a gentle way. So it's like whatever you, like you said, whatever you faced, whatever truth, whatever you were liberated from around that time, this is like almost like a reward or a moment of
Mhm.
like yeah, just
Hey, you
seeing.
could take advantage of this nice sextile now that you got the initial like shock.
Yes, exactly.
On October 28th, Mars in Cancer trines Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees.
Mm. Another great day to stand up for your beliefs, to
Mhm.
take action based on your heart,
Yeah.
defend people you protect,
Mhm.
to make progress on creative goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Saturn as a bigger part of the transit is Saturn and Neptune being in Pisces, both retrograde. They are dissolving the old systems. And like, especially Neptune and Pisces, we're having to like understand our myths, you know, like the myth, like the American dream is a myth,
Mhm.
right? And it's like kind of like, do you believe in that? So I think with Mars and Cancer, like triggering these like Saturn and Neptune, it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it? It's like every time it touches Saturn or Neptune, it's like, if you don't believe in it, how are you changing your life to not like to not you know, perpetuate these myths and these structures that you don't believe in anymore.
Taking action is required because Mars is
Mhm.
involved here.
Yes,
Making a change, taking your dreams and your beliefs and making them a reality.
exactly.
Um, my this is my Virgo moon speaking, and different interpretation of this, and like health related, of course, Virgo moon, but it can make you tired, it can make you
Yeah.
low energy, it can make you more susceptible to colds. Wear your mask,
Mm-hmm.
bring your hand sanny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can I just quickly share with you a Saturn and Pisces story?
Yes.
So my mom started a cough when Saturn went retrograde in June, and it was like this mysterious cough that all the doctors were like, "Oh, it's just because she's getting old." Saturn, and my mom has three planets in Pisces, so She's Pisces and Venus and Mercury, and it was like this mystery. And then when Mercury in Virgo was opposing Saturn in Pisces, she finally got a diagnosis. She has a bacteria in her stomach that was like activating her reflux. And so the cough actually helped her to discover that she had this bacteria in her stomach that was basically eating the lining of her stomach. So it was like the cough, like, because you have to get a special like prescription. It's our healthcare system is so messed up. You have to get a special like prescription to get the endoscopy
Mhm.
from a specialist, but she wouldn't have gotten that if she didn't have the cough.
Oh my
Yeah. But
gosh.
she finally got the diagnosis when Mercury was opposing Saturn. Yeah.
The stars.
Remember I told you about the
I
cough?
remember, and I was like, put onions in our socks.
And she tried that.
I know, so not helpful. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah,
glad
I
that she
know, but
figured
you
this
just
out.
reminded me of um like the Pisces, they're like Saturn and Neptune is like sickness.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So be
So,
careful there.
so just be careful out there. You know,
Mhm.
there's a lot of extra germs this time of year.
Yes.
Oh, wah wah. I'm just looking at the next transit. Same day. Venus in Sagittarius forms a square with Saturn in Pisces at 12 degrees. Shit, that's bringing my Venus in Virgo into the mix. My Venus in Virgo is at 12 degrees.
Exactly at 12 degrees. Ooh.
Boo. Yes, it is.
Ooh.
Yeah. Not a fun day,
Not a fun day.
Stephanie.
It's not a fun.
Um, well, in general, Venus square Saturn brings disappointment, rejection, loss,
Mm-hmm.
isolation, depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes you need to renegotiate boundaries or contracts or commitments. Um, Sometimes a responsibility is just pressing and maybe you want to have some fun. I feel like with that Sagittarius energy, maybe you
Mm-hmm.
like did have some fun plans, but Saturn is like,
No.
I own you.
Saturn is the planet of no.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, what a bummer.
It's a buzzkill.
A
That's a
buzzkill.
buzzkill. And we're going to be feeling that energy just like building, especially like a week before. So anytime the moon is in mutable signs that week, like if it is moving through
Mhm.
Gemini, Sag, Virgo, or Pisces, just a hot tip, that energy is going to be activated. So
Yeah.
people are going to be just a little bit grumpier
Yeah.
that week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a bummer, I have
That's a
to
bummer.
say. Um, October 30th, Mercury in Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus at 25 degrees. This will bring you back to October 14th when Venus met with Uranus. Yeah, I mean, surprising news.
Surprising news.
Like it's a very
Absolutely.
like Mercury Uranus thing.
Mm-hmm. I think also, Mercury is the magician
Mm-hmm.
and the traveler between worlds. So maybe you see a ghost. Maybe you have a dream and an ancestor or loved one who's crossed over visits you in the dream. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you have like a major personal revelation or a big breakthrough idea that you want to pursue.
Yep.
Um, it could be exciting as
Yeah.
well.
I remember in July or August when Mercury in Leo was square to Uranus, that was the crowd strike when the airlines were all the power outage and then the airlines were all messed up.
Mm,
It's like stuff like that can happen, like transportation disruptions, internet
commerce. Yep.
malfunction, yeah, commerce
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
messiness.
Um, Mercury is also like a signifier of like friends to your peers. So maybe some like
Mm-hmm.
shocking or surprising last minute plans or invitations that you get invited to, or like a sudden disruption
Mm-hmm.
within a friendship or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on October 31st, sweet Hallows Eve, we have a beautiful connection with Mercury and Scorpio forming a trine with Neptune and Pisces. Talk to your dead loved ones.
I know. Wow, how on brand is this
It's the
transit?
cutest. It's so precious. I saw that and I was like, oh,
Of
they want us to
course.
talk with them.
Mhm.
This heightens your intuition. This is a great day for magic. I mean, obviously, right? It's Halloween. The veil is thin,
Very
but
thin.
this particular planetary energy is actually supportive of doing divination work, of
Mhm.
connecting with your psychic mind, your intuitive mind. Um, for healing conversations, for doing ancestral work that stems from
Mhm.
your lineage and ancestral elevation or, yeah, healing.
Hmm. Like doing channeling work if that's in your practice, free writing.
Mhm.
Um yeah, communication with the dead is like really coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the Mars is still in Cancer, so it's like not an exact grand trine, but it's there.
It's a sweet way to end a chaotic month.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the month opens up with an eclipse, so I guess everybody just hold the highest timeline in your mind and your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this
And
was so fun.
oh my gosh, I feel so good. I'm so happy to be back, and we'll be seeing y'all every month from here on out. And let us know in the comments, you know, how did this energy play out for you? We will have links in the show notes for you all to work with us if you want to join Laura's mentorship, if you want to join my Patreon. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.